Welcome everyone to Zoom into Books this afternoon. We have award-winning author Bobby Benevides with us today. He is a children's book author and wrote a book called Gregory's Big Move. It was just released in November last year, and it has been selling off the charts. Bobby, welcome to Zoom into Books.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Bobby lives in West Virginia. He is a pastor, a stand-up comedian, and a children's book author. So he's got a very varied background. So Bobby, please tell the viewers a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, as you shared, I'm a pastor in Elkins, West Virginia, and I've been doing that now for a few years, which has been fun. I do stand-up comedy. That's kind of something I dove into and started in about, I think, 2018. Started doing that and has been fun for me. I enjoy just going around making people laugh and doing things like that. So it's a good time. Filmed my first comedy special last year, and that's been fun too. And then I have 4 kids. I have a 9-year-old, almost 7-year-old. I have an almost 5-year-old, and I have an 18-month-old. So it's a good time. We have it's great, and my wife and I are she just having a great time raising kids. That's what we do. It's a full-time job there too. So and then moved to West Virginia in 2003 as an intern, and then I moved back in 2004. I moved here from Southern California, and I moved back in 2004 to continue doing youth ministry, and I did that till about about 2016. And then I moved into planting a church in Elkins. So.
That's a big move for you, like Gregory's big move from California to West Virginia. How did you decide on West Virginia?
Well, my church that I was a part of, they've done like several mission trips to serve with World Vision and World Servants in Philippi, West Virginia. And in 2002, I went on a mission trip to Africa, went to Kenya, and came home. And my youth pastor, who kind of became a mentor of mine in ministry, he said, "Hey, would you like to take an internship somewhere?" And I said, "Sure. Where do you want me to go?" And I thought he was going to send me back to Africa. But then he said, "Nope, I think West Virginia is where you got to go." And so then he introduced me to a local pastor and a director of World Vision Appalachia in Philippi, and got me connected with them. And I came and served. It was supposed to be a 1-year internship. And then in 2004, I felt led to continue serving the families and being around the people here. And I fell in love with the state, fell in love with the people. And now I call it my home because I was 21 and I turned 40 on Friday. So I've been here almost half my life. So it's a good time.
That's an amazing story. I don't know if it's harder to do service in Africa or West Virginia. I know both have to be challenging.
Yeah, different animals. A lot of different animals running around.
Definitely. Well, what's the inspiration for Gregory's Big Move?
Well, sorry, you might hear my dogs barking in the background. I think somebody just rang our doorbell. But so Gregory's Big Move was really inspired by my son, honestly. My son, my oldest son, he's 9, and he has some tendency to be a little bit anxious, nervous, especially when it comes to especially when it comes to any kind of change, so for me, I started thinking about, ways to encourage him in that change. And so then what happened was I said, well, I'm going to write this book. And what was interesting was I started writing this book, and in that process, my family started to move. We actually ended up selling our home and moving into a new home. And I wrote the book, and it just happened that the book actually came out right when we sold our home. And it was just completely just how it worked out. And so I was able to read the book to encourage my kids, which is fun. But honestly, yeah, that's kind of where it came. My son, actually the image of the book, when you look at it, that it kind of has his dark hair and kind of a darker skin complexion, and he's a very sensitive kid. He has a great heart, great compassion for people, but like I said, he gets a little nervous when it comes to change, and just like many kids do. And so I thought this would be a great book to write, to encourage, to allow parents to develop a conversation around the process of change, especially when it comes to moving and going into different locations.
Well, with what the world has been through the last 2 years, your book is very timely. As the publisher of your book, Gregory's Big Move, that was the first thing I saw. There are a lot of kids in this situation as well as adults. Not only are they trying to get over the fear of COVID, they have to leave their friends and start a new life somewhere else, which can also be very exciting and beneficial too for a lot of kids. Would you like to read us some of your book at this point, please? And I would like to remind people, we want to thank everyone who's joined us on Facebook. Today we're talking with Bobby Benevides. He is the children's book author of Gregory's Big Move. You can get this book on Amazon at headlinebooks.com, at Bobby's website, and all these links will be posted in the Facebook feed. If you joined us late, the video will always be on the Zoom Into Books Facebook page. And if you have any questions for Bobby today, please type them in the comments section, and we'll make sure he answers questions in just a little bit. So Bobby, how about showing everyone the book and reading some of it to us, please?
Yeah. So here's the book, illustrated by Leah Seaman, who actually, just to go ahead and prop her up, she's an awesome artist that you can find at Artabella on Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff. But she is actually the daughter of the pastor who took me in as my internship. So we have a great connection. I've known her since she was very, very little, and now she's grown up and helped me illustrate this book. So it's pretty awesome. So this is Gregory's Big Move right here. There you go. Get the pages open. Here we go. It says Gregory and his family lived in a small town, but were getting ready to move away to the big city. His dad was starting a new job with a toy company, and his mom was going to be a teacher at Gregory's new school. His parents seemed to be very excited, but Gregory was feeling nervous. He didn't know what to expect from this big move to a new city. And there you got him with the empty house. Boxes. Gregory had heard about the big city, but he had never been there before. He heard about the fast cars and busy streets. He heard stories about tall buildings that were scary and how the noise never stops. His friends told him city kids were mean and he wouldn't meet anyone he would get along with very well. He believed everything he was told, which made him even more scared of the big move. And here, of course, we have Gregory listening to his friends, and this is where things get into the kids' heads and all ideas start flowing and kind of manipulate how they feel. Gregory's mom drove the car and his dad followed them in the moving truck, which contained all their belongings. Gregory was looking out the window as a teardrop rolled down his cheek. He was leaving his friends. He was leaving his home. He was going to a scary place, and he believed there was no chance of making another friend again. Gregory's mom noticed he was sad and asked, "Gregory, are you upset about us moving?" He replied, "Mama, I'm scared of the busy streets. I'm afraid of the big buildings. I'm also nervous that I won't make any friends." His mom reassured Gregory, "Wait until you see the city and meet the people. You may be surprised." Now I want to highlight this illustration because this is where he enters the city and now he's going to see people that maybe he wouldn't normally see in his usual neighborhood, right? He sees different cultures represented, different lifestyles represented. So this is kind of what we see here, which is exciting. But the brightness of the city is intentional as well because he had so much fear. When they drove into the city, he saw colorful tall buildings in all different shapes. He saw people in glass elevators on the outside of the buildings. People were smiling and laughing on the sidewalks and on steps in front of the buildings. He even saw vendors selling hot dogs and balloons on the streets in the city. Cars are driving all around, but they weren't going so fast. And there were stoplights at every block, and when they stopped, people would smile at each other. He saw cars with no roof. He saw long limousines, and he imagined a movie star was sitting in the back seat. The cars were interesting and different from what he was used to seeing back home. So far, Gregory was surprised the city did not seem as scary as he thought, but he still missed his old house. He didn't think he would meet kids who were nice like his friends back home. He didn't think he would have anyone to play games with and laugh. Were the kids going to be as mean as his other friends said? Was he going to be happy? He wasn't sure, but he was certainly missing home. Gregory and his parents pulled up to his new home. It was a 2-story building with big steps and a front porch. It was nicer than he thought it would be. He saw some kids up the street playing hopscotch and jump rope. It seemed like they were having fun playing together. It reminded him of his friends back in his old town. He tried to wave, but they didn't see him. He was missing his friends again. He went to his new room and began to unpack. He was putting his favorite posters on the wall when suddenly the doorbell rang. Who could be ringing their doorbell already? They just got there. My son really loves dinosaurs, so I have a dinosaur poster on the wall there for him. Gregory's mom called for him to come downstairs. When he did, he saw 2 boys and a girl standing at the door. The taller boy said, "Hi, I'm Leon. We saw you pull up and wanted to see if you wanted to play with us." The shorter boy said, "I'm Gary. We wanted to play Foursquare, but there's only 3 of us. You would be our 4th. The only girl amongst the 3 shyly said, I'm Charlotte. I'm 10. How old are you?" Gregory replied, "I'm Gregory and I'm 9. I love playing Foursquare." He called out to his parents, "Mom and Dad, is it okay if I go outside and play?" His mom and dad leaned out from the kitchen and yelled back, "Of course, just be where we can see you and come back before dinner." Gregory ran outside with Leon, Gary, and Charlotte. His new friends were very nice. They seemed to enjoy playing games and having a good time. And Gregory thought to himself, maybe I shouldn't have been so afraid of this big move. I have friends and the city isn't too bad. I think I'll like my new home. He played, laughed, and learned about his new city. He still missed his old neighborhood and friends, but was more comfortable and excited to start something new. He's waving at his friends before he goes back. And then at the end of the book, we have some questions that parents can ask the kids, or even teachers, if the teachers have in their classroom, just to kind of encourage them to think about the process of change and even the process of when he goes out to play with the new friends, what parents, could say when kids go out to play. Because, I had some parents when they first read, like, should they allow them to go out and play without, but I think that, again, there's a way to make it easier on them and safer. So.
Well, thank you, Bobby. That It's really a terrific book. And for those of you watching, the book is available at bookstores, on Amazon at headlinebooks.com. We have quite a few people watching today, Bobby. And one of
Great.
the questions that have just come up from Natasha is, are there future children's books coming out from you? What's your next project?
So yeah, I think what I want to do is create a Gregory series. So Gregory's experiences through different life changes. So there will be some more Gregory books happening. I have a couple other books that I do from pastoral leadership side that I'm working on as well. So I have different books there that way. So I gotta find balance and get those done too. But yeah, there will be more children's books coming.
That's great. I know you have written other books. Tell people, as a first-time children's book author, I know a lot of people want to know, how did you get we talked about how you got the idea. What tips would you have for first-time authors who are trying to put together a children's book?
I think really that's a great question. I think for me it was, I would say just let your ideas flow. Don't be afraid to write. If you have an idea, start creating, just start writing down what you would think, even in your mind, creating your own, even if you can't draw, create your own thoughts of what an illustration would look like. So when you do find an illustrator, you kind of can shape that vision a little bit more. But don't be afraid. I think that's the biggest thing. If you have something in your mind that you want to put into a book, start writing. That's the most important step, and just let your imagination flow.
That's true. For most people, generally they're very successful writing about things they know or things that they pull from their own lives. And you have written other books. Would you like to tell us about those?
Yeah, I don't have any of them with me, but yeah, I've written a book called Made for More, A Journey of Discovery and Purpose. It was a book that I wrote, I would say maybe it was 2008. I don't remember, maybe 2013. I can't remember, but it's been so long. But I wrote it, and it kind of walking through the main questions of who am I, what am I, where am I, and then from a Christian perspective, asking the idea of, do we know the great I am in the process? And so walking through that, and I use a lot of pop culture references in there, some dated, but it's fun, and I enjoy that. I wrote a couple devotionals as well. So I wrote a devotional called what was it? A 15-day devotional called Searching for More, and it was just more of a 15-day devotional written like you're on a road trip. So you're reading it, there's scripture references, but then it's also just kind of walking through the idea of, like, do you have the right people on the trip with you? Or what happens when you're running on empty? What happens when you have a flat tire, when stuff gets in the middle of your trip? Do you have just are you experiencing the road trip correctly? And so it's kind of a journey that way. So it's a 15-day devotional. And then I wrote a 40-day devotional for the Lenten season. So that's actually out right now as well.
So you're very versatile. You definitely write what you know. We do have another question that Natasha would like to know. Why did you want to write a children's book?
Yeah, so again, I wanted to write one primarily, honestly, I think I wrote this for my kids. I wanted to see it go out to encourage other children and their families, especially around change, and to have a way for them to ask the questions and for them to encourage their kids through it. But I really wanted my kids to have something that they could read right now, and that it could encourage them, especially. So that was really why I just wanted to write something that would just be something for my kids to enjoy. And then when I wrote it and I had some friends read it and I had my wife read it and they said, this is good. And then I said, all right, well, let's go and turn it into something more. And here we are. You said yes and you took it. So
I did. I loved it.
yeah.
Absolutely. That's for sure. So since you have had a big move across country, like so many people in the last couple years, what was the toughest thing about the move for you and your family?
Well, so my family, well, we moved. So my wife is from Bridgeport, West Virginia, and so my kids, all born and raised here in West Virginia. When I moved over from West Virginia or from California to here, that was what was hardest for me was again leaving my family. I was the only one that came over here, so leaving all my family behind. It was left my dad, my grandparents, my little brother who at the time was 2 years old when I left, and so it was kind of hard for me to leave him in that time, but I knew I had to. And leaving some great friends behind. And so when I moved to West Virginia, it was one of those things where I kind of had the same thoughts as Gregory. Like, I mean, except I moved into a rural community, not big city. Um, what's it going to be like? Am I going to be welcomed into families? Am I going to have friends? Am I going to have connections? Am I going to be able to make a life for myself in West Virginia? What's that going to be like? And then I went to Alderson Broaddus College at the time. Now it's university, but went there and met my wife. She was, she was a student there, and as well as I was a student as well. And we met each other, and then I made some friends on the campus and made some other connections around the church community and around the community I was in, and just kept going. And so it just made things work. But yeah, I think I had all those feelings going. And then recently moving from our house to here, even though we were only moving not even 5 minutes away from our old house, my kids still ask questions like, are we going to make new friends? Are we, what's it going to be like? Is the house going to be okay? Are the other neighbors going to be nice? Or, so we had to walk through those questions and encourage them and let them know, like, look, change is hard. It's going to be difficult, and it's okay to express those feelings, which is why I also had the mom in the story ask the question, right? Why, like, it seems like you're upset about this. It's okay to ask the questions and allow the kids to express them. And so letting Gregory express his feelings is kind of like us as parents or as adults saying it's okay to express your challenge. It's okay to express your sadness. It's okay to share your emotions. And then how do we walk through that? Because to ultimately see that there can be good things happening, even when change comes, good things can still be there when you least expect it. And so the doorbell rang and Gregory makes new friends, and it doesn't mean that he has to forget his old friends, doesn't mean he has to forget his old neighborhood. It's just to know that where he's at now is going to be okay.
That's so true. We're talking today with Bobby Benevides. He is the author of Gregory's Big Move, and congratulations. That book did win a Gold Mom's Choice Award, which is very exciting.
Yes.
And Bobby will be a featured author in the Headline Books booth in Philadelphia just in 2 weeks at the AWP conference there. We're so glad to be able to get out and do things in person. I am aware that you do school visits and use, of course, as a pastor, you speak, but you are available to visit schools and homeschool groups, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah, I would gladly do that. I would love to.
And there is a contact spot on your website for people to get in touch with you.
Yep. They can email me. They can email me at, I can actually give you the email address at Bobby Benevides 74@gmail.com. You can email me there, or you can send me a message through my website. I'd love to connect with anybody who'd like for me to come and speak or read to your classroom or group.
That's fantastic. And all these links are posted in the Facebook feed for those of you who might be joining us later. Bobby, you also have another part of your life that is very unusual. Would you please tell us some of the highlights of that? I think it's fascinating.
Are you referring to the stand-up comedy stuff? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. So yeah, so from middle school, that was one of my biggest dreams is going into stand-up comedy. I loved watching like Saturday Night Live. I love watching, just watching comedians, and I've always enjoyed making people laugh. That's always been something. I got into a lot of trouble for it in middle school and high school, but I really enjoy doing it. And so that dream kind of went aside for a while, and in 2018 I had a friend of mine who was doing a special kind of event for kind of encouraging people, and he asked me if I'd want to come and just do a little 10-minute set, just to try it out. And he knew that I had always wanted to do it, and I was kind of hesitant. It was almost like a put up or shut up kind of situation, where it's like, hey, if you want to do it, you gotta come and do it. So I said, okay, let's give it a shot. So I went and did a 10-minute set and enjoyed it, made people laugh, had some people ask me if I was going to do any more. So I said, well, maybe this could be something. And in Philippi, there used to be a place called the Wanderlust, which is a lounge restaurant kind of place, and it was a wonderful venue. Unfortunately, it's closed after COVID, but they gave me an opportunity to come and do my first 1-hour show, and I did a 1-hour show, and I actually did a couple 1-hour shows with them, and then I started doing more, and just really enjoyed working on it and making people laugh. And so that's what I do now. I do it. It's not, it's definitely not my main career. It'd be fun to make it my main career in a sense, but I like going around. I was just in Tampa doing some open mics recently. I went down for my mom's wedding, and then I was able to do a couple open mics down there as well. And then I have a show down in Glen Ferris. I'm joining a couple other comedians down in Glen Ferris in May, and might be doing some more shows around. And there's a place opening up in Elkins here that's going to be hopefully I'll be working with them to do some open mic comedy experiences there. Filmed my first comedy special at the 1863 restaurant here in Elkins. They allowed me to use their location to film my first special, and that is actually, it's available, but my goal, if everything works out right, it'll be on Amazon Prime. If everything works right, it'll be on Amazon Prime, because they've allowed that to happen again. So before it was I had to go through film festivals and all this stuff, but now they're saying that they're allowing independent performers to put their stuff on. So I'm hoping that'll work out again, but if not, I'll keep it on YouTube, and people will be able to access it there and watch it. And and hopefully I'll be filming some more somewhere down the line, and doing a lot of other shows around, because I enjoy doing it. It's a good time.
I just think it's very exciting. I know you told us how you got started in it. I think the alliance with Amazon Prime is very impressive. How did you even initialize contact with Amazon Prime for that?
Well, Amazon, even though it's as big as it is, they actually do a lot of great work for independent performers and independent artists, and in a way of, they have their self-publishing stuff that they do, right? Which is where I put a lot of my ministry books have been through there. But they also have an avenue for independent filmmakers and creators to put their work on as well. And so I learned about that, and I sent a message to kind of ask some questions and share with them the thoughts of what it would take for me to put a comedy special on. And they responded, and they liked the idea of it, and they said that I should film it and then submit it, and it would go on. But then policies shifted, and I wasn't able to put it on there. And now policies have shifted again, and they resent me. They're allowing me to resubmit it. There's just some things I have to do to make it work for their platform. So my hope is I can get it up there soon, but it's just I'm doing a lot of it on my own because I'm independent, and so it's trying to make sure it works. But yeah, I do have my comedy, bobbybcomedy.com is where you can go, and you can kind of access some of my my kind of YouTube sets and that kind of stuff, and even some humorous videos that I've made in the past. During COVID, the pandemic hit, I kind of started making some parody videos, making some songs. I don't sing at all, but it was fun to just dress up in character and make funny videos with the COVID issues. So it's but anyway, that's you might find me dressed up as Elsa, from Frozen on YouTube, and I believe I dressed up as Ariel, the Little Mermaid, just because my little girl has all that stuff. So I was just using what she had because why not? And I have no shame. That's the biggest issue. I have no shame. I'm okay. I can just do whatever. So that's what I did. And yep. So you can go on YouTube, find me, and just don't judge that part of it. So.
I think that's fantastic. And Lord knows during COVID, we all needed an outlet of some fun to get away from all the stress. For those of us just joining us, we have Ashley Belote with us now. Ashley is also an author illustrator, and she has some questions and discussion for Bobby too. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you so much. Hi, Bobby.
Hey, Ashley, how are you?
Hey. So for those of you who don't know, Bobby and I go way back. We got partnered up to do an art project in our college art class together and have just kind of stayed in touch ever since. So I'm super proud of him and all of his accomplishments, especially this book. It's absolutely fantastic. And on that note, Bobby, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about your writing process. You've talked a little bit about the inspiration. So I'd love to hear, everybody has a different type of creative process. So I'd love to hear a little bit about yours.
Yeah, so I don't think I have like a traditional writing process, because like sometimes I listen to other authors and like, oh, we have a bunch of different papers scattered around with ideas and they move them around. I just go. And so if I have an idea, I jot it down on a piece of paper, or I use Evernote on my phone, and I write down a bunch of ideas. And then as I look at my ideas, I just start writing. And then as I'm going, I have friends that I kind of say, hey, would you mind reading this just to kind of let me know if this is flowing well? And like, if you were like, for this book, as I wrote it, I had some friends lined up and I said, hey, look, I'm writing this children's book. Your parents, I trust you. And so if you want to read this for me, I would love for you to read it. And you can let me know if it's flowing properly for the kids that I want to write for. And so, and I take their feedback and their critique, and I kind of shape or rearrange or change some words or punctuation or whatever, and just kind of go that way. But yeah, that's kind of how I do it. I'm not very good when I have outlines. If I have a bunch of stuff scattered around trying to figure out, like, I get overwhelmed. I prefer just to kind of go for it and just write and then fix it as I need to.
I think that's great. A lot of times I feel like as creative people, you can edit yourself in your head. And if you think of an idea, you immediately cast it off as, no, that would never work. And you don't even write it down or try it. So it's great the way you do it. You just put everything down, because who knows, what could come of it. So it's great to just have the initial thought, jot it down, and then work from there. That's fantastic. Yeah. Is there any advice that you would have for anyone listening today who is an aspiring children's writer?
Yeah, I think that when it comes to writing a children's book, because I never planned on writing a children's book. I've never even, like, my wife actually has children's book ideas in her head that I've been trying to encourage her to write. But just, when you have 4 kids, time just kind of goes, and just trying to make that work. But I'm still trying to get her to write those down. But So I never really thought about doing this, but then I was like, well, when it came, I was like, well, just do it. And I think that's the biggest piece of advice that I can give is just do it, right? If you have an idea in your mind, whether it's an experience that you've had as a child or an experience that you've had an adult with kids, or it's just like a crazy imagination, like if you're coming up with something, don't be afraid to write it. Just go for it, because one of the things that I had to learn was don't be afraid to hear no, and also don't be afraid to hear it's not good, because the thing is, it's good for you to release it, so write it. If people don't like it, they don't like it, but it was for you to be able to write it. And so don't, and maybe that's the next piece of advice that I would give, even though you asked for one, I'm going to give you a couple.
Yeah, we love extras. Bring it on. Bring it on.
Yeah, I think that the next piece is don't write for anybody else, but for you. I think that, you can do the whole cliche, like if it reaches just one person. Well, I mean, you wanted to do that. You wanted to expand. Like nobody writes a book just to go ahead and keep a book for yourself, but don't write for other people, because other people are going to have different opinions. And so what you just put down, you could think is so great. And if you listen to other voices, it's going to shut you down. Write for yourself, write to get your ideas out, write to get your creativity going. And you're going to have some people who enjoy it. Listen to them. And the people who don't, hey, thanks for buying the book and giving me your money and not liking it. I mean, it's just different people, different opinions, so just kind of go with that. So that would be my next piece.
Yeah, that's all fantastic advice. I think, especially when you're writing children's books, you have to appeal to the child audience, but you also have to appeal to the parents, because they're the ones who are ultimately making the decision. Are we buying this book? Are we reading this book or not? So I think that is fantastic advice. Not everybody's going to like you, but there are going to be people out there who do. And you should never try to write to the general audience. You should always try to write, like you said, for yourself. And then whoever identifies with that will appreciate it for what it is, and they'll be supportive. So that is something that we all need to remind ourselves of as we're kind of going throughout our creative process here. So speaking of children's books, when you were growing up, did you have any favorite books or favorite authors that you gravitated towards?
So I had a lot. Rudyard Kipling's Just So stories was probably one of my favorite books to read, like with my grandma. And but there's one book in particular that has stuck out with me since I was in kindergarten, and it was called Beware the Dragons by Sarah Wilson. In fact, so much so that I had a copy and it was signed, and I don't know what happened to that copy, but I jumped on Amazon trying to find it, and I found one copy of that book, and I was able to get it for my kids. And it's one of those books that, like, I don't know why, but it's a story of a young girl who wants to go on a trip, and she meets some dragons, and the dragons are a little bit quirky and different, and everybody's afraid of them, but she discovers that they're not really there to be afraid. They just want to be friends. And so, but it's a really great story. Tildy is the girl's name, and I have it memorized. It's one of those books that since I was in kindergarten. It's a great story.
Oh, I love that. And so do you think that perhaps your book could become a favorite of some little kid out there?
I believe so. I believe it could be a great book that becomes a favorite for kids, especially the kids that have some anxious tendencies, right? Who have a hard time with change. Like, reading this book brings some comfort. But also, I think some parents might find this to be a favorite of theirs as well, because of the idea of how do you encourage your kids, and how do you listen to them, and how do you support them during the transition? Because a lot of times as parents, we get excited and we get caught up in our part of the move. Yeah. And sometimes we forget about the emotional piece that the kids need. Mm-hmm. And so this actually will help us understand kids. And like I said, at the end of the book, there's questions that parents and teachers can be asking the kids. And listening to their responses and then engaging in those responses, because it'll draw out some of the emotions that maybe they didn't know how to communicate. So I think, yeah, it has potential to be that.
Yeah. Oh, I 100% agree. I think too that even if you don't have kids or grandkids, I think adults would actually really like this book too, because even when you are an adult, you don't stop feeling certain things, and hesitancy, anxiety are definitely in that group. And this book really presents it in a way where we're afraid of the unknown, we're afraid of what could happen, and we kind of make up in our minds how bad something's going to be before we even figure out if it is that or not. So it's a great book for all ages and for multiple generations to share in together. And I know that you have some kiddos at home, so what was their reaction to seeing the book for the first time?
Well, first off, I think that they were kind of shocked that Daddy wrote a children's book, number one. I think that I've always made funny stories or just told them, and I've always read the stories with them. But I think that they were surprised that I'm actually one of the people that wrote a book that they could read. But then when they saw the pictures and they heard it, it was crazy, because like I shared this earlier, but that when the book came out, it came right in the same time that we were getting ready to move, and that was unintentional. It was like I wrote the book, and then we decided to purchase a new home, and then the book came in the mail like a month, I think it was, before we were moving.
Oh, wow.
And so I was able to read the story to encourage them and to talk through the thoughts that they were having and the emotions they were having, and it just worked. And again, like the main character is kind of connected to my son, just the way he's kind of designed to be a little bit nervous on occasion, and especially with change. So it just was an encouraging book for him at that moment. So
Perfect. Yes, timing is everything. Absolutely.
yeah.
So we do have a question here from a viewer. What is the most memorable book moment that you've had since this book has come out?
I would have to say it's probably reading it to my kids. I think that's probably the most memorable.
That's what I would
book.
pick.
Yeah, I think I think there's nothing better for a parent to be reading a book that they wrote to their kids. And I have 4 on my bookshelf that have been signed for them with special messages that I'll be giving to them when I know that they can be a little bit more safer with it.
Yeah,
but,
smart.
so they're, yeah. So, but it's, I have them they have their own copies, and they'll have them forever. And I think that's the memorable piece for me, is knowing that my kids will always have this book that was written just for them, in a sense, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in terms of getting the book out there, have you been able to do any signings or anything like that yet?
I was able to do one signing at the name of the book place is off my head right now. I was at the Del Monte Market in Elkins, and was able to do the signing there. But I haven't really been able to do many others just due to COVID, but all at the same time, just other busy schedule stuff. But
yeah, so whenever things, as things kind of open back up even more so than they are now, do you have plans to kind of go and do things that the public could come and meet you, or do you have school visits or anything like that lined up?
yeah, so well, I'll be in Philadelphia to do the signing at the book signing there. But other than that, no, I don't have others lined up at this moment. But I would love to set up time to go into schools, or to even be at public libraries, or do something like that, just to kind of do those events. I think it's just more of finding the venues that are open to allow those things to occur. That's the biggest trick, is making sure that I can do it safely, because if we have kids and we have families, we want to make sure that we do it safely, but at the same time finding the venues that are able to make that happen. So
Perfect. Well, you heard it, everybody. He is available. And I know that you've already kind of said this once, but just in case someone's just joining us, what is the best way for people to contact you? Just to, ask you general questions about your writing, your book, or to potentially set up a book event with you?
Yeah, so they can go to bobbybenevides.me. They can go to that website, or they can send me an email at bobbybenevides74@gmail.com. Or I'm on all social media. So you go onto Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. You could find me on there as well. So you can find me under Bobby Benevides. I think Bobby_Benevides on Instagram, and you can catch me there. So.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being on Zoom Into Books today, Bobby, featuring Gregory's Big Move. We are super excited for you and can't wait for this book to just get out into the world even more so than it already is.
Thank you. It's been awesome. So thank you, guys.
Great. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. This video will be available on the Zoom Into Books YouTube channel in the coming weeks so that you can watch the replay there. The replay will also be available here on the Zoom Into Books Facebook page. And feel free to comment even after the video is over. We do check the video comments from time to time. So if you've got a burning question that you didn't have time to ask during the presentation today, we will get it answered for you. So again, Bobby Benevides, the author of Gregory's Big Move. The link to purchase the book is here in the comments, so please get a copy and feel free to contact Bobby for book events, school show programs, anything that you think his book or he would be a good fit for. Thank you all again for joining us. Have a great afternoon.
Bye.